Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter. Welcome back to Stop the Scam. We got a good show for you. If you follow the Freight Brokers subreddit, you're already knowing what we're going to be talking about today because we've been talking about this guy for the last week and a half. Today we got with us John Ferguson of Pivot, and he's going to talk to us about some cargo theft cases that he's been having to deal with. So we have that today and more. So stand by. Welcome to the Double Broker Bounty Hunters Stop the Scam. Here are your hosts, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera, and Dispatch Kate, Caitlin Price. Another one bites the dust. Another good day when you got Queen in the house. And speaking of queens, Dispatch Kate, the Dispatch Queen. How are you doing today, Kate?
I'm all right. Things have been pretty good over here as far as getting our, startup stuff going, and we're just rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling. I like to hear that. So how many trucks do you now have working for you?
We only have one. So he kind of reached out before we were really done getting all of our shit together, really, and he was pretty desperate to get on somewhere that would be beneficial to him. He had some bad experiences in the past, so we just decided to roll with it and just kind of make sure we tried to hurry up as much as we could and get everything figured out, because it was really just a couple other things we were kind of dragging our feet on.
This wasn't one of our one of the victims from our favorite scumbag. What was it?
No, but I did have somebody reach out to me that had done some work for them, and he had talked about wanting to come on. I don't really know if that's gonna work out or not, but I had talked to somebody about that. It's pretty ridiculous what's still going on. So
yeah, it's amazing. Our favorite scumbag is still up and running and doing things. We have open investigations at FMCSA regarding them. Hopefully we can get something done, because I can tell you the one thing that would give me more joy than anything else doing all this podcasting work, all the fraud prevention work, would be to record federal authorities taking him into custody. That is the one shot I want more than anything else in my life right now. So, and that's saying something, folks. That's saying something. All right. With that being said, we do need to go ahead and show some love to our sponsors at AccuBid Pro. If you are in the industry, and especially if you're new in the industry, and you're trying to make your way through this let's be real here. The rates are not the best. And if you want to make sure you can function, the best thing to do is to know your cost per mile. And the best way to track that is with AccuBid Pro.
Tired of spending hours bidding on loads and second-guessing your profits? Introducing AccuBid Pro, the mobile app designed for the everyday owner-operator. We simplify load bidding, making it fast, accurate, and stress-free. Know your operating costs up front to ensure every load is profitable. Plus, for a limited time, enjoy a 30-day free trial. Stop guessing and start earning. Download AccuBid Pro today, available now in the App Store. Bid better with AccuBid Pro.
Special thanks to AccuBid Pro. That was a great new commercial they got. I like it. Not nice and easy, no muss, no fuss, and it's only 30 seconds. But I want to go ahead and introduce our guest today, John Ferguson. It is so darn great to have you with us, John. Thank you for coming. There you are.
Yep, no problem. Hi, everyone. My name is John Ferguson. Great to be here.
Okay, John. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll get into the fun from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for having me on. My name is John Ferguson, founder of Pivot. We started this company in 2020, and I've been in freight brokering since June of 2011, fresh out of college, straight into the grinder of freight brokering, cold calling, tracking.
I'd say you look like a
dispatching.
young man still.
Yeah, a lot of gray hairs have come in over the last couple of years since we started the company.
Oh, you hide it well. You hide it well. Me, on the other hand, no.
Yeah, I shaved it off. So I've been doing this for a little bit of time, and I've done pretty much every single job in the industry that you could think of. Started out as a tracker, just track loads all day, every day. From there, went into customer sales, did customer sales for a while, went over to carrier sales, did that for a while. Went over to became a carrier sales manager for a little bit, and then moved over to the customer side. And then before Circle 8 sold in 2019, I was the director of operations over at Circle 8 Logistics. They sold to a company called Global Trans.
I know them very well.
Shortly after that, I started Pivot, and I started out as a one horse, one person operation. Started out in my basement. From there, I had some kids at home, so I ended up getting a small office. Worked my way up, and I got some customers. All those years of cold calling and talking to people. It was also in kind of the thick of COVID as well, so it was a little bit. It seems like every shipper was letting everybody in. So I'd love to think that it was my great sales expertise, but it could have just been the market. Then I grew the company, and then some of the people that were with Circle 8 that I worked with, they moved over to Pivot as well. So while the company's been around since 2020, many of the people that I work with today, I've been working with since 2012. Actually, one of the guys that works at Pivot worked at American Backhaulers. He actually went to Circle 8, and he's the one that hired me in 2011. So, I got a chance to hire him. But it's awesome working with people and trust.
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the most difficult parts about this particular industry. Especially when we're talking about interactions between carriers and brokers. Trust is, earned. It doesn't just happen anymore. Relationships are everything in this industry. And unfortunately, in this industry, you're only as good as the last job you did, too. Yep. So the fact that you're able to maintain your customers as long as you have, despite, the free-for-all that COVID was, that's a good thing.
Right.
So congratulations and hats off to you for that. But I'll tell you, and I said it to you on the phone, and I think I've even said it in Reddit, you are a unicorn. There are very few brokers out there that I've ever come across who have had loads stolen and was able to recover all cargo on all the loads. This is an absolute rarity. So let's start with the most recent one, because that story is out there on Reddit. What happened? Take us through it.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a very flattering comment about being a unicorn. I never thought about it that way. Just the way I think about it is that, this is the company that I founded. Names on the line, not my name. It's not John Ferguson Logistics, but I'm the CEO and the founder of the company. So, every load matters to me. In this instance, customer I've been working with since 2020, and I've been shipping the same lanes for her over and over, contracted lanes. We move the same lane every week. And we had a load picking up at a shipper, supposed to deliver the next morning at the receiver, and we booked a carrier on it. We went through all of our standard vetting checks. the ones that we use to get set up with carriers, verified email addresses, verified that the carrier, and this has been working good. As double brokers, they constantly are, I would say, evolving, and it's not a matter of, in my opinion, it's not getting ahead. It's it's preventing them, but they constantly evolve.
Mhm.
They're constantly coming up with new techniques, new ideas. If the freight brokerage or just transportation industry in the United States evolved as quickly as double brokering and theft scams, we'd probably have none here in the U.S. because they are very advanced when it comes to adapting to technology and figuring out ways around fraud. So again, we had a load picking up on Friday. So I think it was not this past Friday, but last Friday, which was the 4th. It was supposed to deliver on Saturday, 5 on the 5th. And everything checked out. We did, VoIP checks, verified driver cell numbers, trucker tools, GPS tracking, the whole nine. Did all that. And Saturday morning comes along. We get an email from the receiver. Truck's not there. Appointment canceled. Carrier said that they were on the way. We said, keep going. Carrier said they delivered about 2 p.m. We requested a POD. They never sent it to us. My team alerted me to, an issue there. So in my opinion, I don't know, right or wrong or opinion wise, but if a customer says a load did not deliver or the truck's not at the shipper, the truck's not at the receiver, regardless of what I used to go carrier side and say, a carrier saying he's there. I 100% don't go with the carriers anymore because I have to go with what my customer says. If the customer says the truck's not there, good chance the truck isn't there. And anytime I've kind of fought with customers about it, I seems to have been wrong. So I've kind of switched my viewpoint. So the customer repeatedly said the truck's not there. So right away, that alerts in my head, regardless of if they said they had the POD, they were going to send it, never sent it. It immediately triggers in my head theft. And I feel jaded saying this, but anytime I hear breakdown, first thing that pops in my head, theft. If I hear shipper or receiver says truck's not there, I immediately think theft. And I hate it. It's unfortunate that I have to think that way. But
it's good to question everything. Be skeptical of everything.
Of everything, yeah. You really have to be.
Kate and I are both dispatchers. That's our normal daytime job. And I had a guy who broke down on Friday on a load going from Texas to Virginia. He broke down in Alabama. And I hate making that phone call saying, guys, it's not going to be there 8 a.m. Saturday like we
because
promised.
you know that the person on the other line is like questioning it, like, really?
Exactly.
Is that what's going on?
I already have in the email pictures of the damaged part, where he is, a screenshot of my Life 360 tracker, all that good stuff. Here's where he is. Here's the problem. Here's what we're facing. Here's what we're doing about it. So on and so forth. Please send a recovery. We're going to this shop at this location. Whatever we can to try to verify. No, we didn't steal the load. We're just trying to keep you informed. We don't know why there are so many people out here who use the we broke down strategy for theft. But boy, it happens a lot.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I've received everything that you just mentioned. We'll talk about it on the first load that was stolen. This one's back in January 2024, but we'll talk about it. They sent me everything that you're talking about, and they said exactly the same thing, gave me all the same information. And that was 100% a stolen load.
Wow.
So I'll go into that, but yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. So yeah, this one didn't show up. Alerted me. My team called me, said, "Hey John, big issue here." They know how I think. So first, I was out to dinner with my family. I ended up calling like the company's owner on like I found a number off like my carrier packets, or found some obscure number somewhere. I don't remember exactly how I found it, but it was just basically digging, scraping the internet. So I called owners like, "Oh yeah, that's not us, right?" Okay, so that's now it's gone from yellow down up to red. So I get home, I start working on it. So that's probably about 6, 7 o'clock. Get some more information, texting with the shipper. Shipper gives me, shipper messages me. I start calling the shipper. Him and I get connected. He says, I'll run over to the warehouse and I'll get the BOL for you. Yeah, because obviously the BOL that we had was, changed, altered. So you can't trust right away any information. If you suspect a stolen load or anything like that, double brokered, don't go off of any information that was provided to you from them. BOL, PODs. You just basically you say I'm starting at 0, and you have nothing, right? You can only go off of the information that you're provided from sources that you can trust, customers, shippers, people who have an interest in getting the load back. Don't ever trust any well, here's the BOL. This is what they sent me, right? You can't trust that. I've seen so many, people say, "Oh, this is what we got," from. Just might as well just toss it in the receptacle and burn it because it's no good. So what you need to do is, I reached out to the shipper. He said, "I'll go over to the warehouse, get the information." Sent me the BOL. I took a snip of the driver had written his name in manuscript and cursive. Took a snip of that. Ran some traces on the cell phone number. So I ran those traces on the cell phone number. Pulled up with, somebody's name. And I had about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago now, I had some experience with, sorry, somebody making sales calls next to me. I should have went to a different room. But it pulled up with someone's name, right? That wasn't even in trucking, not in anything. And so I started, trying to reach this person on Facebook. They really had nothing to do with the load at all. So that let me know that they're cloning cell phones. So they're able to clone cell phones and basically make it look like, they could clone my cell phone, and they can make it look like John Ferguson's calling in. So that was a dead end right away. So then I took all the snip of the picture, added everything I had from, all the information I had, added that to Reddit because I was basically at a dead end. I couldn't figure out who Valentine, all the information. I don't want to say his name, but I don't want to. All of his information I added to the Reddit, see if anybody else could help me figure it out. And then, John, that's when you were able to kind of help me figure out who this person was. I had to dig a little bit deeper to find out what company they were with, and I'm not really sure how I can't remember exactly at this moment how. I can't remember exactly how I pulled that information, but I was able to pull it off of there, and I figured out what company you worked for based on the information you provided us with. At this point, it's really late at night. It's like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I get his cell phone. I start calling the guy. Yeah, I didn't care. I got to figure out what's going on. He answers me probably about 1 in the morning. I want to say it was. And then him and I talked for a little bit. Super nice guy, good trucking company. To be honest with you, the guy was so transparent. He took like 100 pictures. He clearly knew something fraudulent was going on, but he told me that when he got there to the location, there was like 4 guys kind of surrounded up. He just said he's an older guy, said he felt uncomfortable. They paid him, and he got the heck out of there. But he ended up sharing a ton of pictures with me with who picked up the load, et cetera. So from that point on, I took those. One of them was a Ryder box truck, had the truck number on it, plate number, everything like that. it at this point it's probably 2 or 3 in the morning. It's a complete dead end. Obviously, Ryder's not open at that time. Sunday, Ryder was closed again, so I'm just stressing all day Sunday. Yeah, I'm pretty much defeated on Sunday. Come in Monday morning. I'm like, I don't know if I even feel like dealing with this anymore. But there's just something, that I'm like, I got to figure this out. It just itches, So I called. I'm like, oh, the product's gone, right? It's gone. So once it's transloaded, it's not impossible, which you'll find out in my other story. I had to load transloaded. It's not impossible to figure it out, but you go to the improbable point of the spectrum. But okay, I'm like, the driver did from the other load. He's like, they do have GPS trackers on all these Ryder trucks. So I'm like, that is the thought that popped into my head on Monday. I'm like, okay, if they got GPS trackers, let me at least, it's a rented truck. Let's call and figure it out. I called Ryder, get a hold of their gen loans department. Surprisingly, they gave me all the information I wanted. They told me right where the truck was in Brooklyn, New York. Google the address, pulls up as a food company. And then I call Ryder back and I say, hey, who is this truck leased to, or who contracted this truck? They gave me the information, and lo and behold, it's identical to the name that's on the street sign out in front of the company. I call that company up and I say, hey, you guys are dead in the water here. I got the truck tracking on your lot. I have pictures of you with the truck loading the stolen product. I have Ryder saying that the truck is leased onto your company. I said, you're dead in the water. At first, they were kind of fighting me about it. I said, how about you walk out onto your lot and take a look and tell me if this truck's sitting out there? And then the person on the phone went and got somebody else to help me out. And they came over and they're like, hey, we do have the product. What do you want to do about it? I said, well, I want to come pick it up. Right. So, but we can't deliver to the same location. So I had to find somebody else that was interested in purchasing the product. Obviously you got to get permission from your customer to do all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so we did find the product, located it. There's other people involved. We do have, like Iowa cargo theft division, who they told me they participated in one of the most recent rings down in Miami that was busted for about 10 million. And then we have a New Jersey cargo theft sheriff involved. And we also, from the previous one in January 2024, we do have an FBI contact as well that we sent all the information over to. So we're kind of hoping between, the 3 of these cargo theft people, they'll be able to identify and kind of close some of these rings.
Yeah, one of the things that we have seen, I work with the Freight Fraud Task Force, and one of the things that we see is even though these reports get to the FBI and to the OIG at DOT, they go into a database. Normally, they're not able to act on a single report, but what they do is they consolidate information, and from that they build the web, or that pretty much shows how that cluster is working, how that group is working. And then once they finally have enough evidence for something actionable to take place, then they do go and take out the cell. But it takes time. It takes time and a lot of investigative work to sort through all that. And that's one of the things that the task force has been set up to try to do, to help authorities in managing those things. So we've been receiving reports of stolen cargo cases and whatnot for the last couple of months. And we've been trying to help piece those things together. I know we're working on a ring in Chicago, another one out of Dallas, another one out of California. I mean, they're all over the place, but it's a painstaking process. And, you do your best not to let them know that you're onto them until you're ready to pounce.
Right.
And And that's why a lot of brokers are unsatisfied with the way that reporting is done, because there's just not much they can do immediately. However, once the data is finally collected, now we got something actionable to work with. So brokers, don't fret. They are actually working on this. It just takes time. But when
So
it happens big.
in that situation, what extra precautions could have been taken to avoid a situation like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and
Because
it's something
you're doing everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything that you can. So that's one of the reasons why I was extremely depressed 2 Sundays ago, as we did everything right, and and I went through our entire vetting system to try and figure out how did they get by it, because we did all the VoIP tech. When it comes to fraudulent activity, we do a very good job to avoid these bad actors. Um, you know, uh, and I went back to see if any of our teams skipped any steps or did they did everything exactly right. Um, and they can clone cell phones now. They can also fake GPS as well. So how they're doing that, I don't know. Um,
So, okay, they can clone phone numbers, but
Yes.
they can clone them and make outbound calls. But if you were to call that number, it's surely not going to go to somebody who's spoofing it, right? It would be
Maybe it is a real cell phone. Maybe it's cloning. I'm not really sure, but it's based. It'll show up as based here in the States. So you can call them back. They can still pick up. You can GPS ping them. It'll still show. Like, for example, the one that that alerted me to this 3 weeks ago is, we have to, for this one customer, we have to send the driver name, truck number, trailer number, carrier name, etc. And we sent all that to the shipper. Shipper's like, that's not who's here. And this guy was GPS pinging right at the shipper, but that driver and his cell phone number and who they were nothing like what we were provided. And then I call that fraudulent actor back, and he's like, he made some, I told him, I was like, you're caught, and he's like, well, I have to make a living too.
wrong answer, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he was
Dumbasses.
he was halfway across the world, and he didn't care, but and it was my first time realizing I didn't realize it in the moment what the tech that they had actually kind of came up with, because I didn't look into it as much yet. But if I could go back, I would definitely ask them more questions, because sometimes you get, I've spent a lot of time talking to double brokers on the phone, that have been caught and trying to figure out, like, what, they'll talk, first they want to fight with you, call you names, you call them names back, you do all sorts of stuff. And then, but they're just sitting in some office bragging that they're scamming people. And, you can chat with them, and, I would have loved to try and figure out how they, how they're doing this, because it's crazy.
He has to be one of them. One of us has to go call them and say, we want to work with them. Hey man, I've been doing this for a few years. I know the ins and outs of this shit. Let me on, I'll help you.
Yeah, no, and sometimes you probably think that, I don't know how these people are living over there, or what life is like, that you got to go to the point of you want to steal from people across the world. But if one of these fraud companies that are, it's just like, you ever seen that movie Catch Me If You Can? Leonardo DiCaprio, he's the fraud guy. Tom Hanks is chasing after him. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't, but I know what you're talking about.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Abagnale, I think it was Frank Abagnale Jr., the government ended up hiring him as a fraud person. So, if one of these companies could get a hold of one of these fraudulent people and say, hey, we'd love to move you here to the States, pay you a good salary, and help us come up with our system of like, what are you guys thinking? How are you guys doing this? What can we do to kind of, because to me so far it's we keep doing too little too late, and we only maybe get a step or two ahead of them at a time, and then they will take leaps and bounds to get ahead of the technology that we're putting in.
I'll tell you, I wrote an article about something like this on LinkedIn once, and I need to do a follow-up article. I've been saying for at least a couple of years now, warehouses, you are the front line and the last line of defense. And warehouses have to get involved in this. They either feel like they have no obligation to it or they have no liability if a cargo goes missing. But I would argue you loaded the wrong freaking truck. Therefore, yeah, you got liability. Warehouses, I think, are the answer to solving the majority of the fraud in this industry.
I don't disagree with you. I've spoken with shippers that they actively know that they're not loading. They're probably loading somebody that shouldn't be getting loaded. They know what's going on, and some of them do, some of them don't. I'm not saying that all of them do, but I don't disagree with you. But I've asked shippers or customers, especially if it's a customer purchasing it from a shipper, the shipper is going to get their money no matter what, and they're dealing with loading trucks, they're dealing with drivers, they're trying to get their inventory. It's that's not something that they're very interested in taking that extra step and working on it. And there's also, because the shipper is going to get their money no matter what. I mean, if you look at the industry, it's the people. It's whenever your bank accounts get hurt, do you start finding solutions and start finding options for it, right? So, and freight brokering, stolen loads affect the freight brokers because of liability. It doesn't affect the customer. It doesn't affect the shipper. It doesn't affect any of them. Right, because they'll either hold your payables, and they're going to get their money no matter what. So, from that perspective, I understand what you're saying. There's just going to be no accountability on that end. It's going to be all on the brokers, and how you get buy-in from that part. That's tough. Especially when you're in an industry that. A lot of people look down on brokers. At least you kind of hear that every day, or majority of the time. So when a couple of things that go against brokers is kind of sometimes we'll have a negative rep or rap, and we're trying to solve these solutions, and nobody cares when it's John from Pivot calling saying, "Hey, I got this great idea." It doesn't help them really at all.
Well, we are trying to make inroads into the 3PL world in order to try to do something to help resolve that. So hopefully we can make something go from there. But the good news is, at the end of the day, you actually recover the cargo, which again is almost unheard of, especially 48 hours after the theft took place.
Correct. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
Wild. That is unbelievable.
But that is not the first time that you've had a stolen cargo. You had a stolen cargo before. Why don't you tell us about that incident?
Sure. So that incident is I want to say cargo theft really jumped and became a really large talking point. I mean, it's always been part of the industry, but it's never been as prevalent as it has been in the past 2 to 3 years. I'd probably say the last 2 years is when it really took off. I think I've seen some articles say it went up by 700%. So at the beginning of this, the whole fraudulent activity taking off, we had a load picking up out of Kentucky, supposed to go to Pennsylvania. Load picks up, and same thing that you were saying, John. Truck broke down, sent us pictures, sent us GPS, everything, right? And as soon as I saw it, again, it just pops in my head: stolen load. It was kind of late at night, so we weren't able to get any information from the shipper. Called the shipper the next morning. They sent me. Luckily, they scanned the guy's driver's license. Guy had a very unique name. I remember the day specifically. It was in January, and it was a snowstorm on a Friday. And so I'm driving to the office, and I shouldn't be Googling and driving, but I Googled this guy's name. Again, very unique name, not John Smith or anything like that, where a million people are going to pop up. There's only going to be one of these guys' names out there. And Googled it, and just lo and behold, his cell phone number pops up. Call him. He's like, I delivered the load in Addison, Illinois. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm in Lisle. That's about 20, 30 minutes north for me. So he told me where they delivered it. I called the warehouse. It's snowstorm again. So the guy's like, I'm going to be there in a couple hours, So he said, I'll be there like 10 or something like that. So I get to the office, and I'm talking with another guy who's now a police officer, talking with him. And I'm like, let's go over there. Let's just go show up at the warehouse and park in there. So this guy thinks that he's going to call me when he gets to the warehouse to give me the information that I need. I'm just like, it's 30 minutes down the road, maybe a little bit longer since snow, but let's just drive over there. So we drive over there, and I got like a can of mace on me. So we back up into his dock and basically block his dock door with the car, right? And we're just sitting there waiting and talking, and then eventually this guy pulls up and starts yelling at us like, "What are you doing in front of my dock door?" Blah blah. And I'm like, "Hey, you're the guy that had a stolen load in your facility." So he's like, "All right, come on inside with me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm about to go into this dark warehouse. A stolen load." So I got my hands in my coat pocket with a can of mace, ready to, just mace somebody out here. And we get in, and it's a small outfit. Get in there, and the guy, he goes through his paperwork. The load was not there, but the guy goes through his paperwork, and he took a detailed information. He got one truck unloaded, and then the new truck reloaded in less than 30 minutes, which I've never heard of in my entire life. I've never heard of a truck being unloaded and then a new truck backing in and being reloaded in 30 minutes. So that's a red flag for an operation that's fraudulent right there. So he gives me all the information. He wrote down the carrier name, truck number, trailer number, wrote everything in there. I just did a quick search on Safer and found about 10 companies with that name. Started calling each one. Carrier answers. He's like, "I'm about 200 miles away from delivering this load." I said, "Do not deliver that load." And he's like, "No problem." And then they returned it to the shipper for us. And we ended up getting that load back as well. But I've had 2 instances, and that instance is what drove us to become very in depth for our tracking for fraudulent activity. And that ring, I believe, was busted early last year.
Mm-hmm.
With the FBI agent that we were working with out of Kentucky, he because we had the warehouse info that they were delivering to, we had everything, and that warehouse ended up getting busted. They had a lot of stuff there, but we ended up getting our freight back, and I don't get any credit for being a part of the bust, but I like to think that some of the stuff that we've done led to that bust. But some of my takeaways from I guess if you want to call it hope or whatever, uh, you know, the first thing you do, again, just go back and start from ground zero. You don't know anything, zero. That's what you got to immediately think. Do not rely on any information whatsoever from whomever was giving it to you associated with the carrier. It means nothing. Um, Driver phone numbers mean nothing. Truck number, trailer numbers mean nothing. The only, go straight to the source. Go to the shipper. Contact the shipper. Find out if they have any cameras on site. Most of them have cameras. Get the original BOL. Most of them have at least a copy or a picture of the original BOL. They have logbooks of people signing in. And most of the time they will help you out unless they're a large shipper. They might not help you out, or they might not just have the capabilities to get you that information. But you go straight to the shipper, get all of the info. I would, use your customer as help to get that information, but go straight to the source immediately. If you waste any time communicating with your customer, like obviously tell them what happened, but if you waste time, like, hey, can you get me this information? Who do you think they're going to go ask? They're going to go ask the shipper. So, we're, as a freight broker, I definitely like to think, thank you. I like to think more about, sorry, that threw me off there.
Sorry, my apologies. I throw comments up when they come in. And
no, that was a good one. I like that. That's funny.
Yeah. Narc, will you please wipe the brown stuff off your nose? Thank you very much.
That's funny. So no, I like to. That one got me thrown off there. I wasn't expecting that to be, just randomly pop up on the screen. So I like to, so go straight to the shipper. They're going to have all the best information. Tell them exactly what's going on. The shipper I was working with a weekend ago, I told him what was going on. The guy was at home. It was 7:00 at night. And, he's like, I'm washing my truck. I just finished dinner. And I'm like, man, it's a stolen load. Just please help me out. The guy's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, I'm about 30 minutes. I mean, the guy at nighttime, after washing his car, eating dinner, had to drive 30 minutes to the shipping office to go get me the BOL. But, he did it. So do I think my customer could have gotten that? Eventually. But, time is everything. And you really want to talk to. So
that was very nice.
He's having fun with me. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to disrupt you again.
So I'm just so you want to go straight to them and get all the information straight from the shipper, and then from there you kind of work backwards, or you work forwards. I guess you take the information, you get any truck number, any trailer number. Again, you saw I ran into a dead end once I had the guy's name. I couldn't figure it out. I went to Reddit. You got to have some. I didn't know where else to really go, but I figured a group of 30,000, and I actually posted that everywhere. I posted it on Facebook, a bunch of different groups to see if I can get any information. I knew somebody out there could probably look up that information for a driver, which I couldn't. And then once we got that information, then I was off and running. The shipper did end up getting me like videos of the truck on Monday, but by then, you'd be so far behind. Our product could have been gone. You go straight to the source of who has the information. Get as much as you can. You can get a name. Look, I mean, on this one, I literally just had a guy's name and nothing else. That's where we started at. I 7:00 at night on a Saturday, I had zero information. 8:00 at night, I had a name. That's literally it. And then by 9, 10 o'clock, maybe a little bit later, through Reddit, you guys provided me with more information. Then I took that information, disseminated it, and searched it through other sites, and ended up finding, the company that he was with. And you got a cell phone number. Then you just continue just working one little lead at a time. And this lead as kind of seems like it's going to be a much bigger potential ring, but that's up for law enforcement to kind of figure out from there. But you got to go straight to the shipper immediately. That's my number one advice.
Yeah, I've worked warehouses before, and in my time working in warehouses, I used to run those warehouses under foreign trade zone rules, FTZ rules. I was in Savannah, Georgia, a port town. Our warehouse were FTZ approved anyway, but very strict security requirements. Everyone had to be checked in. We scanned everyone's driver's license every time they showed up. And I would see the same guy 5 days a week to pick something up. 5 days a week. But 5 days a week, I would also grab his license and I would still make a photocopy of it. And I would staple it to the back of my copy of the BOL. And that was just standard procedure. And if any cargo ever went missing, we know exactly who to go to. But that was, again, one of our standard requirements. So whether we were FTZ required or not, those were the security implementations I always had at any facility that I've ever run. And I'm very pleased to say that I've never had a single cargo stolen ever in 15 years of running warehouses in Savannah.
Good.
So I'm very happy about that. But at the same token, that's why I sit there and I say, warehouses, you are the solution to this problem. And they have got to step up. Thankfully, you were able to get an original BOL with the original signature on it, and everything started rolling from there. It's amazing what social media can do when you're trying to get something done in a hurry. So the worst part is I don't usually look at Reddit on the weekend. So how I wound up looking at your post, I don't know. Call it kismet. I don't know, but I'm just glad we were able to help. There's nothing better for somebody who is engaged in fighting fraud like I am than knowing that you were successful in recovering a cargo. That's always the best feeling in the world.
Thank you, and definitely without the information you provided, I would have been stuck. So maybe I would have figured it out some other way, but you definitely provided a lot of information that I did not have in a very quick time. So I appreciate that.
I got to thank our fraud fighting network at the Freight Fraud Task Force, who really came through and providing that information as quickly as they did. So Dale, if you're watching, brother, this one's for you.
Next time Dale Prax?
Yes. Dale Prax was a huge help with that. He's got so many tools. I mean, I got a lot of tools, but he's got more than I got. And if I'm in a jam, he's always the first one I call.
Sure.
But I'm just glad that we were able to get this resolved for you, and you're able to maintain your unicorn status. I used to be that way with COVID until I finally got COVID 2 years after everything started going down, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just really happy that it turned out well for you. So at the end of the day, what advice would you give any brokers out there who might be facing the exact same thing right now?
Sure. Beyond what I just kind of went on, I would, the key is really getting down to load level, driver level. It's such a pain to do this, but if you can share your driver name, phone number, truck number, trailer number, carrier name with your shipper, and it's like, man, we're moving tens of thousands of, in this industry, they're moving, hundreds of thousands of loads a day, right? So, to pass that information along is and have a shipper actually use it. But if you get a shipper that will work with you on that, and it's, it's not some small $5,000-$10,000 load, you're talking, close to 100 or over 100. Share that information with the shipper. Like, hey, this is an expensive load. This is a high value load. Here's the information. Please verify that this is who you are loading. I've seen some great tools out there. but it's difficult. Just you really got to get down to the driver level. If you could talk to the driver, if you can, put their number through a VoIP system, make sure you're sending rate confirmations to, FMCSA verified emails. And I know there's a lot of great tools out there. My Carrier Packets, Highway, RMIS, all those people got great tools, and just make sure you're using them. And this is an industry that's money driven, so sometimes the people that are on your team could be driven for different reasons. They might take risk on something that they shouldn't. So you got to, I would say, foolproof your system because if somebody, I've been on the carrier side before all this fraud took place, and if you can make a lot of money on a load, and it's like, unfortunately, I remember I'd be like, yeah, my truck's empty, and it wasn't empty yet, back in the day. You got to really foolproof your system because even your own team can potentially not on purpose, they're not trying to put you in harm's way, but people are driven for different reasons, and protect yourself by implementing a foolproof system where people cannot game the system and skirt the rules. And then once you get your rules in place, stick to them. Stick to the rules you have set. Don't do overrides. Don't make a special request or a special override for one specific load. I was talking with a company this morning about some fraudulent activity where a couple carriers they had 4 loads stolen. Well, it's two separate companies. Each one had 2 loads stolen. And in both instances, both of those companies did an override for this carrier. So the technology was there to say, don't do it. And, they did an override for it. And, they had some loads stolen. So, mine is once you put your rules in place, don't budge.
Well, I certainly do appreciate that. As one of the people who, though you've been a victim, you have rescued yourself. It's still an absolute phenomenal situation you find yourself in. You actually went to the warehouse and confronted the guy who posted on that first one. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I know if I was close enough, I would want to do that too. But a lot of times the brokers can't do that. But it's good that you had that opportunity, and that led to a very successful situation for you.
The goal is to just eliminate it where it never happens. But it's going to be a difficult journey.
Yeah, well, certainly you'll be tested again. There's no doubt about that. But stick to your guns, and I agree with you. You're going to do just fine. In fact, no, I'll save the shameless plug for another video. I've got something that can help brokers with that, but never mind. Anywho, do you have any final thoughts for us as we're coming up towards the top of the hour? Any final thoughts that you'd like to give everybody when it comes to dealing with fraud in this industry? Other than don't trust anyone.
Yeah. That's my number one is definitely don't trust anyone. Let's see.
I did notice when we started communicating on Reddit, you were very skeptical of me too at the start.
Really? Oh yeah. You know what? I probably was. Yeah. I was in skeptical mode 100%. I was probably very skeptical at first, because sometimes I think that, I guess you call it paranoia, but I definitely think like, oh man, these double brokers they're on here. They're just trying to throw you the wrong information. And I don't.
The worst part is those of us who work in this industry, it's almost an instinct now. We can feel that something is just not right. We can feel it. I don't know if it's the hair standing up on the back of your neck or your spidey sense tingling or whatever you want to call it. We can feel it. The question is whether or not we act on that. And a lot of drivers who find themselves with double brokered loads, who are unwillingly stealing loads or what have you, they know something's not right. For example, this gentleman on this load from a couple weeks ago, he knew something wasn't right. He may not have known who to talk to, he may not have known who to ask or what questions to ask, but at least he took action to resolve that. And that led to the success that we had. Those pictures were key.
Those pictures were key. And another issue is that, when it comes to drivers, there is insurance liability for carriers. When you receive a bill of lading, and the bill of lading specifically says who the shipper is, and it specifically says who the receiver is, and you deliver it somewhere else other than what is on that BOL, the carrier that delivered the load somewhere else, their insurance, whether you can get it pushed through or not, they are liable for that load, for delivering it somewhere else. That is a lawful fact. If you get a BOL and it says pick up here and deliver here, and the product says the company's name on it, and you're delivering on the side of a street, and somebody like me finds out that you did that, we're definitely going to reach out to your insurance company and try and get compensated for that.
Well, thankfully that has not happened to a point yet where you've had to move forward on filing claims. So
that's why blind shipments is scary.
Yeah, that's a great point with blind shipments. It's a very good point.
Whenever I deal with a blind shipment, because I get that question a lot from a lot of carriers, when I deal with a blind shipment, I'm not afraid of them, but I do evaluate very closely. First and foremost, when a broker tells me, "Oh, just throw out the original BOL and use ours," I'd never throw it out. Never. In fact, I tell my drivers, send me a copy of that, because I'm going to go and I'm going to look into it myself. And then I want to find out, why is this a blind shipment? And does it pass the common sense test? Moving one person's freight from one location to another because one location didn't like the quality of it, another location can take a lower level quality. And that's why you have a blind BOL. And that blind BOL indicates it's coming from the original shipper way back when. Okay, now that's making a little bit of sense to me. I can connect those dots. Okay, I'm all right with this.
And that's exactly what happened with this driver. Is he, the company that purchased the stolen freight, is that he said that they were told it was bad product for XYZ reason, and so he's like, "Oh, I'll purchase it," right? But then you got to think is that food and safety regulations don't necessarily allow that. So they shouldn't be delivering these products to other people. And just read the BOL, and if they say deliver to somewhere else, question it. Just like both of you said, question it and get it in writing and get some more information. And blind shipments, dispatch, Kate, questionable.
Every time.
They always are. They always are. John, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. We got a couple closing things we're going to knock out real quick. Got to show some love to our sponsor again, because let's face it, you guys are experiencing tons and tons of costs out there. Hopefully you're not dealing with having to buy a cargo that you're being held responsible for that got stolen. But when it comes to just dealing with your general costs, knowing your cost per mile is the name of the game if you are a carrier. And nobody does that better than AccuBid Pro.
Tired of spending hours bidding on loads and second-guessing your profits? Introducing AccuBid Pro, the mobile app designed for the everyday owner-operator. We simplify load bidding, making it fast, accurate, and stress-free. Know your operating costs up front to ensure every load is profitable. Plus, for a limited time, enjoy a 30-day free trial. Stop guessing and start earning. Download AccuBid Pro today. Available now in the App Store. Bid better with AccuBid Pro.
Okay, Kate, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Nope.
And apparently Narc wants to say something real quick. Oh, well, thank you very much. Appreciate you, Narc. And I know John and Kate also appreciate it. Folks, as you know, we are always available here Mondays at 1 p.m. Central Time. Of course, I don't have all my banners ready to fly when I need that, but that's okay. 1 p.m. Central Time. Please be sure to like and subscribe to all of the outlets for the Lounge Media Group. You can always email questions and comments to Kate and I. You can get Kate at kprice@stopthescampodcast.com. Myself, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, at jcantera@stopthescampodcast.com. Please also watch very closely, especially if you are on Reddit, under the hashtag Freight Fraud Task Force. There's lots of information coming out in coming months about some of the work that we are doing with this group. Guys, it's another crazy week. It's Monday. Stay safe out there. And whatever you do, don't let scammers take you for a ride. We'll catch you all next week.